To reports, or can we go to our presentations?
All right, let's hold off on reports and let's go to our presentation then.
It's going to be ordinance 2021-36. That's a 36, 35, sorry, 35.
5, okay.
So, just to bring everybody up to date a little bit, this is a project that we have been working on for the past year and a half. It's Church Mall or Black's Lane. And we're excited to bring this to everyone, because this started out, just by way of background, if I may, this started out at 150 units, and Mike, what were we, 5 floors?
5 floors, 150.
So we're now down to 100 units, and we're down to 4 floors. And as you'll see from the pictures, underground parking, it's really a spectacular development. And on top of that, what we also did, I'd like to point out, is Springville Manor, which borders this property. What we did is we included this, we made it one campus, and we asked the developer to take Springville Manor and update it, the facade, so it reflected what the new building will look like. And they've done that for us also. Included in this, you'll see there's gonna be a pool and a playground on this property. So it's really a pretty spectacular development. I love it because it's down the street, it's walkable to the center, yet it's not directly in the center of the town. So I think it's a really nice development for us. The units are gonna be very nice sized. The 2 bedrooms are 2 bedrooms and a den. Mike, we're what, about 1,600 square feet? This is gonna attract a totally different clientele than what we're currently seeing. This is geared towards the people that work from home and need some more room. These are gonna be very upscale, and the rent price will go along to reflect that. I don't have the financial agreement signed off on as of yet, but we do have the parameters for it. This will be a pilot. The pilot will be 10% the first year. Then it goes, after 10 years, it goes to 11, and it goes to 12. Sarah Bailey property is included in this. Sarah Bailey property has been sold as part of this development. From a tax standpoint, because everybody's always interested in that, right now, the township is getting $16,000 for all of these lots currently. That's all we are collecting. The first year, the taxes on this will be $279,000, which we keep 95% of that. So that kind of gives you a little bit of background. Mike, if I forgot something, please.
I'm done.
Sorry, I was trying to kill time while you were setting up.
Also, Michael, when this project first came out years ago, we called the school. We were accused of not calling the school by some people in town. We called the school and told them exactly what it was, which was more units at the time, and they said they had no problem with it. Any project we have gone, Saks, Gomes, we've always called the school first and went over with them before we went any further.
And Rich, just so everybody understands, this actually has been on our plan since 2006. So that was an area that was designated since 2006. It just never happened for whatever reason. So in 2021, we're finally to a point to bring this to you to present. I do want to thank, before we go any further, I do want to acknowledge and thank this committee. I want to thank Mr. Mistretta, Mr. Disco, and also our planning board. Our planning board provided us with some very good input that we incorporate into redevelopment agreement. So it was actually a very good collaborative effort to get to where we are today. So that being said, Mike, why don't you take it away?
Thank you. I'm just going to try and fill in the blanks. I'm going to try not to repeat everything you just heard. My name is Michael Mistretta. I'm a planner. I work. My office is in Cranford, New Jersey. I work for Harvard Consultants. Again, we've been working on this redevelopment plan for about a year and a half. We're very excited about it. Your town has designated these properties starting in 2006, so this is nothing new. Over the years, 2006, the properties were expanded in 2014, additional properties were incorporated, and then again in 2021, 4 additional properties were added to the redevelopment area. So these properties have been assembled since over the years, 14 to 16 plus years, and it put together 4.9 acres, which allowed for a more comprehensive development, as you see on this one board that I have up on the stand. It's concept plan that shows in the darker shade is the new building. The lighter shaded building is the existing Spring Manor building, and it generally surrounds the existing cemetery, yep. And then across the street, Academy Green today runs right through the building, and it's being relocated directly south in front of that L-shaped building. So they're relocating Academy Green to put together this larger buildable area. And what we tried to do by amassing this 4.9 acres is to create an overall campus where it's not just a new building, it's also a total renovation of the existing building that's at Spring Mill Manor, because it is right now getting a little bit old and outdated, so that building was incorporated into the project. One thing that's very, very important that we should note is these properties, 4 of these properties are already in our Fair Share Housing Center settlement agreement. That is
Can I call timeout 1 second?
absolutely.
We're just having, we're gonna move the boards. We want the public to see the boards. Because you've got so much good information going on here that you really need the visual to see this.
So we make sure we're in the right spot.
Hang tight, everybody. If you're watching this, we're just adjusting the boards so you can see everything on our pictures right now.
Continue, Michael.
All right, I'm sorry. If,
Whatever else you need, yeah.
what board are we looking at now that you're talking about?
Okay. I have 2 boards up.
Okay,
The first one is to my left.
Okay.
I'm going to start with the concept plan.
okay.
And I just talked about the assemblage of these properties since 2006. And just to give the public some more information, the board that's up right now is a survey of what's existing today. So we have Church Mall, Academy Green, existing cemetery, and the existing Spring Mill Manor building with Black's Lane right here. So that's the existing conditions, that's what exists today. This is the concept plan, second board. Again, existing Spring Mill Manor, just for orientation, remains exactly where it is. Church Mall, exactly where it is. So those are your bookends, and the development generally is in between those 2 bookends. The darker tan building, L-shaped building, is the new building. New Academy Green was up in here, it's being relocated to the south to connect Black's Lane. So Church Mall stays the same, Academy Green gets relocated, and they both connected to Black's Lane. And what we tried to do with this concept plan is, over the years, again, since 2006, these properties, some of these properties, it's been assembled over a period of time, have been assembled under redevelopment and by the same developer, which has allowed us to put together this more comprehensive plan. Again, as Mr. Vasicka was saying, the project started at 150 units. It has been reduced down to 100 units, 5 stories down to 4 stories. In my world, a very important note is these properties are located in your settlement agreement with the court and Fair Share Housing. So we are moving forward with an inclusionary housing project that folds nice and neatly into our settlement agreement and advances that settlement agreement. So that's very positive. The next boards, the 2 boards I'm going to focus on are, this is the new building. Remember, the existing Spring Mill Manor staying, this is the proposed 100-unit building. The first building, A1, to my left, this is Church Mall at the bottom of the drawing. Church Mall terminates at the cul-de-sac. This is the main entry of the building, where you would pick up, drop off, or walk into the building. You can see the building at this stage is 3 stories along Church Mall. And then as you go down the new Academy Green, the building goes from this very decorative entry of 3 stories, and she goes down to expand to 4 stories as you go down Academy Green. The road that you see at the bottom of A2, the second drawing, that building elevation to my right, is Black's Lane. So if you can imagine driving up through Black's Lanes, you would pull, if you were to continue to go straight, you pull right into and under the new building. So it's a subterranean parking. All 4 sides or all elevations, if written into the plan, is required to be designed and constructed to the same architectural design, same use of building materials, so there's not a really pretty front elevation, and then the back elevation is something much less. So the entire building complex, the entire new building will look like this. Across from Academy Green, there's a separate parking lot that will serve as overflow and guest parking for the development.
Can I point out one thing?
Sure.
This committee in Newburgh brought this up. The apartment building that is on the corner of Morris Avenue and Black's Lane.
Springfield Manor.
Right, one of the things that we did is that this corner here, we made them make this corner mirror the front of the building. So that when they look out of their balconies, there's a couple units that can see, they're gonna be looking at a finished product rather than a blank wall. So we made them upgrade this for those people. And I did contact all of them so they were aware of what was going on tonight.
Your problem.
So everybody knows.
You can see at all corners, the architect, I have to give him credit, did a fantastic job, I believe it. The corners of the building, even at the end of Church Avenue, very decorative architectural element. The main architectural element at the main entryway, but then as you go all the way down Black's Lane, you can see he carried it all the way through. Very, very decorative. This whole piece is nothing but a decorative piece of architecture to dress up the architecture and to dress up the corner of the building. I love the fact that you drive under, not seeing all the cars. That is fully wrapped all the way around the building. So even if you go into the back and the sides of the building, it's going to look like this elevation. In other words, there's no exposed cars. So I think they did
Do
it.
we ever do the amenity deck also?
Yes.
We should show that, if we have that somewhere.
Right there.
Which one is it?
This is. What does it look like behind this building, 81 and 82? This is a section through the building. Here's the section right through here on A6. This is the new Academy Green, the new 3-story frontage of the building that you see, 3 stories here. I love the fact that you've got the units here, they built units into the roof line. Instead of going with the 3 levels and then starting the roof after the 3rd level, which would only create a much larger mass and becomes too overbearing. So what they did was we made them bring the roof line down and put the units into the roof. You can all units up in here.
All dormers cut out.
Yeah, operable dormers, so you can have, it's a way of getting higher density, but you don't get that, the appearance that the building is too large. As I talked about, you go under the building to the park, this is the subterranean garage, and then we made use of the back of the building by putting a concrete patio deck on top of the garage, and this is an outdoor amenity deck. It's approximately 7,500 square foot, so it's really making the most use of the property. And you don't see this wall in the front, you see this wall here, which is much more attractive.
One of the other things also that we did do, I'd like to point out, is that Church Mall is gonna be landscaped from here to the corner. So they'll put pavers in, lighting, et cetera, et cetera. So as you drive down the street, I think it's gonna be very inviting as you drive down into this development.
The next 2 boards I have focus on Spring Mill Manor. This A7 board to my left, there's a photograph of the existing conditions of Spring Manor. This was taken recently. This is the existing condition of the building. And when we're doing this project, and I give the developer his professional credit. We started walking out there talking about it, and John really pushed this issue. The new building is gonna be so beautiful that we didn't want this brand-new beautiful building next to an old building that's being a little outdated. So we worked with them, and what we did was, they're gonna improve the exterior facade of Spring Mill Manor and bring that up to the same type of elevation, not the exact same, because already the brick is there, so we couldn't match that. But you can see, architectural element added, dormers added all the way across the front, walkout balconies, more architectural elements, another one here. Right now, it just looks like this. You can see the existing Spring Mill Manor sign, popped up on a piece of concrete. That's an elevator shaft. So what we did was we just try to make it more decorative. Entranceway also dresses it up, shutters and so forth. So what we're trying to do is create a campus between, so you don't, the both buildings, the entire campus looks attractive when you drive up there. The numbers very quickly, it's a 100-unit building, 85 are market rate units. Of those 85, 25 are one-bedrooms, 60 are two-bedrooms, 15 are those affordable housing units, which is fantastic in my world. We are supposed to capture these inclusionary units, so we're advancing our plan. And I think that's fantastic. I mean, from an affordable housing perspective, it's very helpful for us. It shows that the town is serious about its affordable housing obligation, and we're advancing that target. Very critical, the whole world project is fully parked under RSI standards. So we have sufficient parking for both buildings, guest parking, so much so that we're actually banking some of the parking on Academy Green. And like John, I'll just conclude with this real quick. Substantial amount of off-site improvements. We have new walkways and pedestrian walkways, not only along the frontage of the buildings, but we're extending it all the way down Academy Green to Morris Avenue. And then also, as a requirement of the redevelopment plan, the developer is required to study the traffic improvements at Academy Green and Morris Avenue. And it specifically states the intersection is going to be examined for the need for an addition of a second travel lane on Church Mall, and the modification of the timing of the traffic lights, so we can move cars out of Academy Green onto Morris Avenue. I think
Can you run through the numbers, the units? I know 15 for affordable. What was the for one bedroom, two bedrooms? Can you use
Sure.
those again?
85 market, 100 altogether in the new building. No density changes in the existing Spring Mill Manor building. So when I say 100 units, I'm only speaking about this one new building. There are 85 market rate units in that building. Of those 85, 60 are two-bedroom units with a minimum average size of 1,000 square feet, and 25 one-bedroom units with a minimum average size of 900 square feet. So those are 85. Three-bedroom units are prohibited. Let me clarify that. Three-bedroom market rate units are prohibited.
But in affordable, there's
Yeah, now the affordable, the 15, this is required by the UHAC rules. We don't have a choice on this distribution. This is required in order for us to get our credits. It's 3 one-bedroom affordable housing units, 9 two-bedrooms, and 3 three-bedrooms. 3, 9, 3, 1, 2, 3 is the breakdown, and that's the requirements under the UHAC rules. So when we do our annual reports on affordable housing and are meeting our obligation, we can demonstrate that we're exceeding what we had originally on this plan because we assembled a larger piece of property, so it puts us in a really good standing. Fully parked project. There's amenities built inside the project, as well as common amenities are being constructed on the exterior. We have new patio, pool, children's playground area, and pass throughout the project. So we really tried to create a campus feel. The outdoor amenities are to be used by all of the residents. It's not just the Spring Mill Manor or the new market rate. So I love the fact that you have all of the, residents on both sides using those amenities.
Mike, I got two questions. There's a light green spot attached to the building. Is that the deck?
That's the outdoor amenity.
That's the amenity deck, okay.
It really shouldn't be green, but we wanted it to pop off the plan because
Yep.
it gets lost sometimes. Maybe a lighter shade of brown or something
No.
would have been more appropriate. But I think it's important because, as I showed you on that one elevation, you're living in here, you have a place to go, you're not even leaving your building, and you have it's almost 8,000 square foot of a elevation that you're able to go outside. I think that's very important.
And then you have pool attached with the playground.
The pass, the pool, the patio, I mean, I just think it's a great way. And I really like the concept of, we didn't neglect or hide or try to run away from Spring Mill Manor. We're refreshing it,
Yeah.
bringing it up to date, and incorporating it with a market rate unit, so, a market rate project. So, ideally, you have some, mix of the amenities and the use of it, and I think it'll, I love how it lays out, because I think it's gonna bring a lot of fresh life into not only the new project, but the existing building.
I think the renderings are beautiful. I think some of the things that the general public typically ask about in regards to redevelopment and things, and I don't know how much of it we can touch on right now, but like, if we can discuss a little bit about like the environmental impact and what's done, what people don't know is thought about and considered in regards to this, especially after all the storms we've been having, and so things like, if we could touch on anything in regards to what is considered in these projects in regards to the environment that people may not know is already taken into consideration. Also, the impact on schools, if we could just touch base quickly, that we do address that there are experts that look into that. And then, the affordable housing aspect, because people hear affordable housing and they conjure up images in their head of that terminology and what that means. And if we could just touch base on what that actually means as opposed to what people think it means.
Sure.
Just in case anybody does watch this, so they can get a little refresher.
Sure, one, quickly, first one, resiliency planning, what we're calling it nowadays. Redeveloping older, underutilized properties where there's a lot of impervious coverage. We're not taking down a substantial amount of mature vegetation. We're staying, for the most part, within the existing building footprints in the disturbed areas. There is some vegetation coming down on the easternmost wing of the new building, but a lot of it is refurbishing existing underutilized properties, which is classic redevelopment. That's what you want to do. You don't want to put new buildings like this out in the middle, if you can, pristine wooded areas and so forth. So using redevelopment to turn around underutilized properties is perfect. Two, we had meetings with both the town committee and the planning board members. We met with the engineers of the project to address flooding and concerns about, I spoke a lot about that subterranean garage. And we went out there, well, no, not we, the developers and engineers went out there and did soil logs and test pits within the building envelope to identify where the seasonal high water table elevation is and making sure that the building is set above that elevation plus some, I forget the exact number of feet above it, so that we can ensure that this quote-unquote subterranean garage, those cars will not flood, that we're staying outside of the flood zone.
Yeah, but your garage, I don't mean to interrupt you, your garage showed that it was underground, am I correct?
It's partially. It starts at grade. It starts at grade.
But there's one level underneath, right?
Yeah,
If it floods, it's gonna flood. I mean,
But that's why we had to study it, so we
Right.
don't have that situation.
So we had them, this is where, this entire section is that subterranean parking. In the beginning, as you drive in from Black's Lane, it's at grade, it's not underground. As you go through the garage, it does drop down, you're 100% correct. So in order to protect those vehicles underneath there, they went out and they did a number of soil tests. Identified what the seasonal high water table elevation is in those areas, and then set the building above that. the floor of the slab of the garage above that, so that we can ensure it doesn't flood. We also, the maps are in the redevelopment plan. If anybody from the public has any questions on it, we mapped the floodplain, the DEP floodplain on those maps. So we are above that.
And did Carla go over the garage itself and make sure, approve it, getting down below in case we have to get down there for emergency vehicles?
I've had police, fire, EMS, everybody's into this development before we did anything.
Okay, that's good.
Everybody's on board with that. And before I forget, we can bring this up, I don't want to stop you, but the graveyard, because I know that's.
I
gonna
was
be
just gonna
question.
ask that question.
Just don't let me forget.
There's, well, I won't jump there yet.
Do you want, well, can I just go back to one thing you said about 5 minutes ago? You talked about changing Church Mall, the traffic pattern you talked about, no?
We're talking about the end of it, where it comes out to Morris Ave.
Yes,
They're gonna have to look at making that 2 lanes, so you have a left turn lane.
okay. Left, right, and one entering in.
Yes,
So the entering in will still happen, and then
Oh, yeah.
Black's Lane essentially is a,
still one way.
Existing one way.
Existing one way.
Supposed to be one way. I didn't mean to.
just like a back way in, I
And
guess.
it really doesn't make sense, quite frankly, to make that a 2-way. First of all, it's not wide enough. Second of all, imagine what it'd be like trying to make a left out of there with no traffic light.
Right.
You would never
Right.
get across Morris Avenue.
So that is just a bonus entrance
It
into
is.
the place, really.
Black's Lane is
Okay.
existing one way, it's gonna stay one way
Okay.
post-construction. Church Mall, we put a specific requirement in the redevelopment plan, because we all know when you come down Church Mall, it's very hard to get out. All right, right now with no development back there, it's hard to get out. So one is the timing of how many cars can get through that light when you do get the green. The second issue is there's only one lane. So one lane, and if you get behind somebody, that's just gonna create a greater queue.
Right.
This many new residents back there, we put a requirement in there that they have to study that light, and we put a recommendation in for one extra lane, so you have a left and a right. And, but that's still not enough, it's about the timing of the light as well.
Yeah.
If you put those two together, and that's exactly how the plan is written, at their cost.
For visitors that are coming in, or somebody's coming down, and they come down there and they have to turn around, or they have to get out of there. There's space on that project where cars can come in and, oh, wrong building, let me abandon this and come around and without,
First of all,
Making
don't
K-turns
forget,
all
we're
over
not-
the place?
We're not changing the width of Church Mall down there.
okay,
Church Mall's very wide down there, first of all, and there's some additional parking lots that you can certainly make a U-turn
Okay.
in the development to get back out.
But to answer your question, if I come down, I enter the project through Black's Lane, which
Yep.
is one way, and I'm like, whoops, I've got a problem.
Mhm.
Then I just go down to the new proposed Academy Green, and I leave.
Come right out.
If I come down Church Mall, I've got a problem, I shouldn't be there, I'm in the wrong spot.
Yep.
Nothing's being changed, the Church Mall is very wide right away today. It's listed as 50-foot right away. Very, and there's no, we're not touching Church Mall at all, so you would just continue, go down, turn around and leave.
fair enough, thank you.
Great.
Excellent.
I think that, the second question was the settlement agreement, fair share housing and affordable housing. It's our constitutional obligation, our township entered into the settlement agreement. We identified some of these properties, not all of them, because again, it has expanded since 2006. And we said as our community that this is one of the properties that we're gonna provide for inclusionary housing. Inclusionary housing means that there's a mixture of market rate and affordable housing. Why it works here is they're gonna be dispersed throughout the, market rate units, so there's 85 market, there's 15 affordable. There's a misconception on affordable housing, especially in Union County, especially in Springfield. Union County holds the rents, but a family of 4, I don't have my sheet with me, and I should, and I apologize, but it's almost $80,000 for a family of 4 is what's considered moderate income housing in Union County, in our region, Region 2. Our numbers, quite frankly, we're in such a wealthy region that the numbers are so high that, it bothers me a lot when people start, earmarking affordable housing. Affordable housing is, if you're making $79,000 a year, and you're a family of 4, technically, you qualify for moderate income housing and you can live in this development. So I think that's a really good thing. We have our obligation, we have to address this number. We've submitted this plan, it's been approved by the court. We get checked up by the court on an annual basis to see how we're doing, whether we're doing what we're supposed to be doing or whether we're not. So it only puts the town in good light. We're doing what we said we're gonna do. If I could share the numbers at another time on what they are, but I think it's, I don't want to start guessing what the numbers are, but they're very high, income limits. I don't know what else to say on it. I think it's very positive for us.
When did these properties start becoming acquired? When did this project take life? Is this
If you
10 years
remember-
already?
if
How
you
long is
remember,
this?
Veal Properties came before the planning board several years ago. That was probably, I don't know, 3, 4 years ago,
Longer, I
longer.
Longer.
And then those got sold off. And as time went on, Garden Homes kept acquiring everything that they could. The only missing piece, quite frankly, is Sarah Bailey.
Sarah Bailey and Academy Green and
Yeah.
a portion of Black's Lane.
So they've essentially acquired everything over the last 5, 6 years at this point.
Yeah, at least. It may even be a little bit longer.
It's classic redevelopment, exactly what you want to happen. Underutilized properties, John said the amount of money that the town's getting out of them is very little. They're on the books already that we said this development's gonna happen here. The fact that they were able to assemble a larger area and deliver a project to this level of scale, which is nothing but positive.
It's beautiful.
And the fact that, I love the fact that you're not right on top of Morris Avenue. You're step back just a little bit. It's a little bit quieter back there. When you walk back there, it's a beautiful area back there. It's screaming something should happen here. We've identified it as a town since 2006. Something should happen here. The fact that they were able to assemble these pieces of properties, deliver a project to this scale, I mean, this is a great place to live. Whether you're affordable, whether you're market, quiet. We're gonna have brand-new pedestrian improvements all the way down Church Mall to Morris Avenue. You walk down, you visit our downtown, and then you go back home nice and quiet and peaceful. I love it.
Let's talk about the cemetery, because we spent a lot of time.
Speaking of quiet and peaceful,
Yeah, they have any complaints there, we had bigger problems. But, major components, there's a whole section, written into the redevelopment plan. We listened to the town committee's comments on the concerns about the cemetery. Planning board members brought the exact same concerns and even more. So one is, we have parking earmarked on Church Mall. So if anybody's coming to visit anybody at the cemetery, there's going to be parking spaces that are not for the guests to use for overnight parking for the new project, but they're public parking spaces. If you're gonna visit the cemetery, you'll park on Church Mall, it'll be signed appropriately. We have a new driveway extending from the end of Church Mall into the cemetery with paths that are gonna be used both for the cemetery and for the amenities. So you have actually improved pedestrian access. The driveway is vehicular access into the cemetery.
It's wide enough so if a truck needs to go in, they can.
Is the cemetery that entire light green shade in between the dark green and that whole, okay, yep, okay.
Now, we've also discussed with them about shoring.
We have specific construction standards built into the plan so we can ensure the integrity of the cemetery. So there's shoring that's gonna be put in place, so you're not gonna get too close, you're not gonna have erosion or any disturbance whatsoever to the cemetery. That's all folded into it also. And then there's maintenance. So we've addressed construction, pedestrian access, vehicular access, and maintenance of the cemetery went in front of the planning board and approved as part of the subdivision where there's a maintenance agreement so that in the future, a group will ensure that the cemetery is maintained to a certain level. But our redevelopment plan took it one step further and says, if for whatever reason that doesn't happen, this developer is responsible for the maintenance of the cemetery. So I think we've adequately addressed construction, maintenance, pedestrian access, vehicular access, and given sufficient parking so anybody who wants to visit the cemetery would.
And that we'll get a new decorative fence also around the entire cemetery once it's
So they're agreeing to basically maintain this forever going forward.
Yep.
It's in their
Instead of it
best
being
interest because
abandoned.
it's gonna be such an important part of land,
Right.
because they're building so close to it, that if you're on this deck, or any view out of here, they want this, the developer, it's in their interest that this looks beautiful. to
That's a-
be- to be maintained.
That's a closed cemetery at this point, right?
I don't know, we saw some gravestones that actually were not that old. So it's possible, I don't know if anybody's being buried there currently, but,
I mean, I'm guessing that once the church went out of business, that's it. They were the only ones.
well, they're in
that used it.
Kenilworth now.
Oh.
They actually moved.
They still own the land, though,
Yes.
all right, and they are in agreement with this maintenance agreement and everything
Their
else.
maintenance agreement is an exhibit to this redevelopment plan.
So we actually have two separate maintenance agreements. If one doesn't do it, they have to do it.
So, and I guess I'm repeating it over and over again, just to get, so anybody who's listening gets full clarification that they are on board with this 100%. This is not us
100%.
pushing something on them, this is not us
Well-
encroaching on them, or,
It was an ask from our part to
Yeah,
get them,
but
but
they
yes,
gladly-
they totally agreed, and it's signed off on.
okay, thank you.
Are any other questions or comments, something we missed, or?
We got everything.
No,
No, that's
great.
beautiful.
Yeah,
We should
thank you,
have
Jim.
the financial agreement Matt's working on. We should have that in the not-too-distant future, probably in December. And at that point, you know, he can come in and explain the pilot and all the other numbers. If anybody has any questions, I'll try to answer them, but, you know, like I said, we think it's a great project for us, and getting to sell Sarah Bailey as we did was a home run for us, because you know what condition that property was in. It just,
It was, and to be clear, Sarah
was
Bailey was not it was not
uninhabitable.
savable, it was not savable, it was not rebuildable,
No.
it was not anything.
we were gonna have to actually knock it down.
It was, had to be knocked, it had to be, it was fully condemned and that was it. It was,
Yeah.
there was no saving Sarah Bailey. And
So-
it is also not a historical building.
No.
Right.
Okay.
And I just want to thank Mr. Mastretti, the architect, the builder, the planner, Mr. Pasicolo, our planning board, this was kind of an all-hands-on-deck plan, and it absolutely looks beautiful, well thought out, well-developed, and I'm excited about the project, for sure. Nice job all around.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, you know, one last question, sorry. All of the blacktop, all that stuff there, that's all permeable, that's all water-absorbing materials like Erica had got into before.
It's the asphalt water permeable paving, not necessarily. The new road, I mean, the Academy Green, unless our town engineer would accept it, Academy, I mean, I would think we would want our new Academy Green, Flax Lane, and any improvements on Church Mall to be regular pavement. That's-
Regular.
I can't speak for our.
But,
Okay.
but you
I would-
can,
I
you,
would advocate for that.
you can also absolutely understand a concern with the impervious surfaces and drainage, and just making sure with the waters that we have and the waters that we continue to get, that
Absolutely.
we've remediated this in our plans as
And
much as
that was a
possible.
topic of conversation, believe me.
Perfect.
Every one of these projects, once I get past the pretty pictures and if I survive that,
Yeah.
the number one issue is saving every tree we possibly can, keeping as much green as possible.
Good.
And whatever impervious coverage you do put down, meeting the new stormwater management standards and protecting all the properties from flooding.
Perfect.
That's textbook 101. Most people don't want to get into that type of detail on these presentations, but I agree with you 100%. Stormwater management, best management practice, the maximum amount of permeable paving or other vegetative means is absolutely gold.
Great answer for Springfield, we appreciate that.
I see what happens in your downtown, I recognize it.
Thank you.
No further questions, I guess we go to
No.
public or whatever we need to. Is there any questions?
We'll go to public comment, we did not do public comment yet, so.
We gotta wait till the end.
We did agenda